If it's Wednesday, it's time for Midweek News. This is episode 113 for February 5th, 2025. Let's get started. Is Zentyal the small business server you need? Zentyal, which you may recognize from previous coverage on this channel, can provide you with domain and directory services, mail server, firewall, IDS IPS, IP Route 2, NetFilter, Squid, Suricata, and FreeRadius, domain-based HTTPS, web page blocking, NTP server, certification authority, VPN, backup, and much more. There is a free community version as well as a paid version which adds support. Based on Ubuntu 22.04, simple to set up, arguably simpler to install than Windows Server. You can install it on top of an existing Ubuntu install if you'd like. Certainly worth a look for small businesses and nonprofits on a tight budget. Night of the Living Pebble. Google has open sourced the Pebble OS. The founder of Pebble is making a new watch. The new watch will have a lot of the same features as the original Pebble watch, which was launched in 2013. The plan for the new watches is not to compete with the big players, but to have a watch for the enthusiast community and not have to answer to outside investors in the process. If you're interested in this, you can sign up at repebble.com. That's repebble.com to be notified of future developments. A guide to installing Pi-hole on Linux. This guide includes written instructions as well as a video. I always find this type of guide to be useful because there's always more than one way to install things on Linux. Worth a look if you're new to Pi-hole or are mentoring someone who is new to Linux and need to give them a fun and useful project to work on. Signal will let you sync old messages with new devices. This is a feature that has been widely requested. The transfer process will be fully end-to-end encrypted, ensuring privacy and data security. It will allow you to bring over the messages from the last 45 days, or you can choose to opt out of this import. They use a process that involves generating a QR code on the new device and scanning it from the primary device. You can read deeper into the process in the article. It's pretty interesting. Pinta 3.0 beta brings new GTK4 Libadwaita UI. The Pinta devs have made it very clear that they have been inspired by Paint.net. The big update in this version is a rebuilt user interface. It looks like this will be a nice release and probably far past my capabilities in any sort of graphic design. Bitwarden's new feature to tackle unauthorized access. Bitwarden will start asking for a two-factor authentication code on unrecognized devices. The verification code will be sent to the email of the registered user. Hopefully, more 2FA options will be added in the future. Epson Scan 2 now available on FlatHub. Yes, it has become easier to set up an Epson scanner on Linux. It's nice to have the official Epson utility as a test for setting up their scanners. I still recommend ViewScan, but for simple tasks, Epson Scan 2 can be a great tool. The state of Rust in the Linux kernel. Each point release of the Linux kernel brings more features to the Rust infrastructure. With version 6.13, Greg Crow-Hartman has described the level of Rust support as a tipping point. What this means is that we are getting closer to the point of time where a real driver can be written in Rust, depending, of course, on what you want to do with it. Things are going to get more interesting as more parts of the Linux kernel get written or rewritten in Rust. Is the modern IT industry facing the same issues as 1990s manufacturing? This is an interesting article and it makes you think a bit. I can agree that IT in general needs to progress and automate more things instead of relying on strictly manual processes. I'm not convinced that unchecked AI is going to be the answer, but utilizing AI as a tool will make a difference going forward. Take a look at the article. Let me know in the comments what you think. Edit your host file in Linux. Most of you watching this have been around Linux for a good while now. This is one of those beginner-centric articles that will be useful to some and will reinforce what you already know for the rest. Editing the host file doesn't really differ much from platform to platform on Linux and Unix systems. Where it does differ is on Windows, and that mostly comes down to the file location. Still, this is good information to know about. The article may be good to pass on to someone who is entering the networking field or getting started on Linux. Gparted Live bumped to version 1.7.0-1 stable. The new release brings a 6.12.11 kernel based on Debian's SID repository, experimental bcachefs support, prevents Gparted probe from starting LVM volume groups, and all this only requires a minimum of 640 megabytes of RAM. Great tool to have on your USB stick of tools. Understanding Linux system logs. This is your one-stop overview of logs covering what they are, types of logs, where they're stored, how to view them on systemd and non-systemd systems, tips for analyzing logs, and this is a great article giving an overview on system logs, a great reference for anybody that has to at least occasionally access system logs on Linux. Parrot Security OS 6.3 is now available with new tools. This release of the Kali competitor, Parrot OS 6.3, brings a couple of new tools. Kaido, which offers assistance for website auditing, and Sex List Lite is a collection of multiple types of lists, usernames, passwords, URLs, sensitive data patterns, fuzzing payloads, web shells, and more. Many other tools have seen their versions updated. You can find the full release notes and download links on the Parrot OS website. And last but not least, LibreOffice 25.2 is out. Yes, folks, they've moved to that year-month numbering scheme, and this is February, so we have a new release. This new release brings auto signature, ODF version 1.4, a new theming system, and many bug fixes and other minor enhancements. Excel users in particular will be happy to know that Calc now supports the importing of the connections XML file. Installation files are available from LibreOffice.org for Linux, macOS, and Windows. All right, everybody, that will bring us to the end of Midweek News, episode 113. And we will be live tonight on the Practical IT channel at 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope to see some of you there. Have a great afternoon.